I assume you can hear this in the background. There is a protest going on in the town centre. One of these anti-fascist, pro-immigration, anti-immigration, pro-fascist. Oh, I don't know which is which these days. Sounding quite noisy. Lots of police presence here. I'm just going to turn my camera around. I'm assuming, as I can see, a Cornwall flag, is that? The yellow one, I think. And a Palestine flag, but these are probably not the We All Love Britain group and want it all to be white and Anglo-Saxon. I don't know. Seems fairly good-natured at the moment, which is reassuring, but the thing is, I don't know if I can get through with the dog. Oh yes, I can get round the War Memorial. Oh well, let's see if anything else happens, eh? Oh no, there they are, they're up there. That must be what I laughingly refer to as the Tommy Robinson lot. I love the fact that we have the right to protest in this country as long as it stays peaceful. Let's hope it does. Oh, Toby's seen a dog, so it's definitely not going to be peaceful now. Ho-hum. Well, stood here at the moment, I'm shouting because obviously of the sound of the samba drums. This is clearly the anti-fascism, pro-refugee side. I'm trying to make my language as appropriate and not inflammatory as possible. But as you can see over at the town hall, there's the Union flag where it does say stop the boats. London is... Oh, London is down. Well, I don't think it is. They're pretty... Imagine if everybody's here today, London's quite upbeat. But this is the size of the... Oh, something's happening over the road. Oh, right, they're upping the ante and putting up speakers, and they're playing Jerusalem, which ironically is the most pro-slavery song ever written by the Empire. But it stopped them for a minute. It seems fairly harmless and innocuous at the moment, and this is the great British privilege that we have with our unwritten constitution. We can demonstrate, we can protest our opinions, and as long as it stays like this, I don't think there'll be anything to worry about. So as you can see, it's still very peaceful. Yes, there's a bit of shouting backwards and forwards, and there's been a very appropriate speech from somebody on this side of the road, and there have been some counter shouts from the other side, but it's getting verbal. Actually, I think it's Toby who's getting them all riled up, because he's clearly, he's got his demonstrator mouth on. But in the main, apart from people exercising a big gob, there's nothing that was expected. So having a lovely chat with that man with the white t-shirt and the backpack on, who was in the previous shots I was taking. I've now moved up to the main road, to this side of the War Memorial. Now this obviously are the stand up to fascism, anti-fascist counter demonstrators. And as you see, apart from the protest chants, which are classic protesting rights, it's very well natured. The only thing that caused a little bit of problems a few minutes ago was on this side here, where the Dorset flag is. 3 people ran in from over on the other side in the distance, wearing Tommy Robinson face masks, which is just silly. And the police took the masks off them very quickly and let them carry on about their business. Then over there, on the council car park, this is the town hall, for those of you who don't know BCP. Those are the stop the boats, far right, that side, you know, the stop immigration protesters. Yeah, all we've heard really from them, and again, I'm not taking, he's seen a dog. I'm not taking sides, I have no side to take. Toby, stop it. Apart from putting up a speaker with playing Rule Britannia and Jerusalem, they've been actually very quiet. I think the numbers are fairly equal. You must judge for yourself. There's a lot of press here, obviously. There's been some speeches on this side. If there have been speeches on that side, I didn't hear them. We will see how things develop. You can hear somebody clearly has a megaphone, the one who's doing the counting, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is about the Israeli-Palestine war now, which is not, of course, what this demonstration was, or that demonstration, sorry, was originally set to be about. I think I've made it very clear on a lot of my previous broadcasts, my opinion on what's going on in the Israel-Palestine war. But it concerns me that this now seems to be converting into a Free Palestine demonstration. Again, absolutely no problem with protesting. They have every right to, and I would probably, if it was a protest situation about that conflict, I would potentially join in. However, I think, oh, there's the gentleman, you can see him, he's climbed up onto the war memorial there, just to the left of the Palestine flag. And this seems to be a very, very organised development into the Free Palestine part of it. Again, it's their right to demonstrate, but I'm not sure that this is possibly the right position. I'm sure people will comment, and I'm sure whatever I say will offend somebody. But I genuinely have no side to take in either of this. I'm purely here to observe. Oh, and it's interesting now, you can see just to the left of the roundabout sign, if you look down, an Israeli flag has now appeared. So that's going to escalate things. And I think it's these sort of little piecemeal additions into protests that often are what end up causing the sparking of unrest. This is not unrest, this is peaceful demonstration. But I feel if it goes any further, then there is a potential that that might be the case. I really, really hope not. I've made it very clear that I have no political axe to grind on either side in this protest or in these protests. I have a big issue about how these all came about following a man with very clear mental health issues murdering those poor girls in Southport. And that has been used as a catalyst to start these off. But I do want to mention this. Now, as far as we've been led to believe as residents, the protest over outside the town hall opposite me, the Stop the Boats protest, has been legally registered as a protest, so that's why they're here. The counter protest that you've seen me covering on this side which was not this shouting, it was the drum beats and the everybody's welcome chants. These two gentlemen up on the War Memorial now with the microphones, you can see just to the left there. These are now developing it into a Free Palestine demonstration, which has caused somebody on that side to put up an Israeli flag. And it's these little things, these little incursions into peaceful protest that then lead to something potentially a lot worse happening. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. These two people behind me are actually Channel 4 journalists, and they have noticed that the mood has changed. And it's changed, I'm afraid, since those two people, the one who's now using the microphone, started the Free Palestine part. There are Jewish people down there. There's a couple I can see, Orthodox Jews with hats and I think tzitzits, the scarves and things. And over on the Stop the Boat side, as soon as the Palestine flags appeared and this chant started, somebody started waving an Israeli flag. Now, a police officer went over to the people who were hand-waving the flag of Israel and gestured for them to lower it, which they did straight away. And again, this is purely an observation. So far, nobody has told them to take down the Palestine flags. And again, as I say, I have no sign. From a protest perspective. They were asked to get down off the War Memorial, I think out of respect more than anything else. So they're now on the ground doing that chanting. But now, yeah, police officer has just gone over and again made the hand gesture to calm down. So I think the microphone has been turned off for a bit. It's interesting to note, just going to stop for a second, hang on. As I said, it's interesting to note that since the aforementioned chanting, etc. started, look, the numbers on that side have dramatically reduced. It is now 12:30. When I got here just before 11 o'clock, that car park was virtually full. And it seems that people are just giving up and walking away. So I hope it's now going to calm down. But Toby's getting very, very wound up, so we're going to go home. If you've liked what you've seen, if you haven't liked what you've seen, please do comment, but make your comments respectable on both sides, please. I will not have sides taken to score political points in my live streams, and I will remove anybody's comment that is, in my opinion, incendiary on either side. Well, now they're riling up about Tommy Robinson. Here we go. So now is the time to leave. Please like, subscribe and share, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Ciao, ciao. And Mr. Gobby here, the dog, who's had enough now, I'm going to take him home and have a nice cup of tea and a gin and tonic. I'm not telling you which one of us is having which. Ciao, bambinos. Hello, everybody. Epilogue time. Epilogue. Epilogue. Anyway, the end bit. So Dog and I have just been down to witness and observe the protest and counter-protest outside Bournemouth Town Hall. And I went with a bit of trepidation because obviously there have been some really, really bad descents into violence at other ones around the country. But I'm pleased to say that by the time we left, it was still very peaceful, as you can see. A bit noisy with the microphones and with the samba band. And very loud singing of Jerusalem very badly. But in the main, it was, up until that point, relatively peaceful and respectful on both sides. After the last piece of filming there, just before this epilogue that I've decided to tack on the end, I got talking, as is my wont, because you know I'm such a shy wallflower, to a few people who were also walking at the same time. And we ended up standing and watching because all of a sudden things changed. Most of the people outside the town hall, so that's the anti-immigration right-wing part of the protest, most of them had already left that position at that point. The numbers had got down to 30, maybe 50, whereas I would say there were a good few hundred to start with. On the War Memorial side, so where the anti-fascists, the people waving the Dorset flag, etc., they had increased somewhat in number. As we were stood talking, a number of police vans pulled up very quickly into parking spaces on the road, and the officers got out. All of them had been wearing their normal stab vests over their uniforms during the protest, as you'll have seen in the background shots of what I've just covered. These officers get out, and the first thing they do is they put on their riot helmets. Okay. And very thick gloves. And then from the back, they get out batons, and they also open up the dog cages and put the leads ready on the dogs, and then shut them up again, and then obviously go for a conflab with their colleagues a bit further down the road. Helmets on. Then a couple more police vans turn up. Now, obviously, it's getting to 2 o'clock now, so it's changeover from the morning shift to the second shift of police officers, the afternoon shift, I assume. And bearing in mind, it could just purely be because they've come from other constabularies. They're not used to, or they weren't aware of what had been happening. So it could just be something they do normally when they're called to police protests and potential riots, etc. They all get out and put their helmets on and their gloves, slam down the visors, get out their riot shields, which they have in front of them, and their big billy clubs. I call them truncheons, but they're more than that, aren't they? They're not nightsticks, they're bigger than that. The ones they use for riot control. And they form a phalanx, almost like how the Roman army used to form their boxes of their miles with their shields around so nobody could penetrate within. And they start marching down Bourne Avenue towards the site of the protest and counter-protest, and they're tapping their shields as they go. Boom, 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 boom. Very, very intimidating. And I would say potentially likely to increase the tension of the arena where the protests are taking place anyway. Unless, as one of the guys I was talking with, so perhaps they'd had some intel that something was about to happen, and because we'd moved a little bit away, we weren't in front of it, so perhaps we hadn't seen what was going on. certainly the music that was coming out of the speakers that had been set up around the War Memorial, so the anti-fascist sides and the Free Palestine demonstrators, that had changed for a while. They'd started playing like reggae, Bob Marley, and things like that. But then the music has changed and it's gone to very, very, very much more what you might call stereotypically Arabian style music. The sort of one that makes a Western white person visualize Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, or a load of people sat on cushions in a tent in the desert using shisha pipes and somebody playing like oboe type music with little drums in the background. And it seems to have gone very ethnically sensitive. So then on the other side, up come their speakers and they start playing Rule Britannia, Pomp and Circumstance, Jerusalem, and for some unknown reason, Wrecking Ball. I don't know what that has to do with the circumstance, but apparently it was upsetting some people on the other side. And the shouting and the banter had gotten a lot louder as we left, so I hope things don't deteriorate. But the reason I wanted to do this epilogue was just to say that the group of us were talking, and I was the oldest. No, so I was the second oldest. There was Graham, who I would say is probably in his 70s. Apologies if I've got it wrong, Graham, but the sort of thing, the references you're making and your general appearance, I would say you're probably in your 70s. Then me, and then there were three younger people. There were two Lees, one male, one female, Mark. And Graham and I were asking the other three what their opinions were, what they thought, as they were younger people and therefore had much more of their lives ahead of us than him or I did, or do, what they thought the answer to the situation was. And Mark, who was the youngest clearly of the lot, probably about 18, 19, and had just come down for an overnight stay with his girlfriend and found there was a demonstration going right in front of where their Airbnb was. So they said their hoped for day of peace and quiet at the beach and a seaside resort has sort of rather deteriorated because there's a potential riot taking place. But so they thought they'd come along and watch, because they're used to seeing the ones in London. They wanted to see if it was different in the burbs. He said something very interesting. He said, it's not a question really for us, I don't think, certainly for me, talking as him now, it's not a question for me about what we're going to have to do in the future or what's going to happen in the future as a result. It's more a question of what we've got to do now, or what's caused us to get to this place where we are now. And we all agree. That's when the other Lee, the male Lee, who is a paramedic, made it very clear that he was on the side of the stop the boats, almost as passionately as I'm on the side of the free immigration, but sorry, not free immigration, but structured immigration, but respecting the fact that we need immigrant labour and we have to respect people who come in from other genetic or cultural backgrounds, but they in turn have to respect our culture, and we all have to learn together to live with each other, etc., etc. And he said something that interested me and made me think, and it's actually a version of what I've been saying a lot anyway. He said social media is largely to blame for this. And it's true. How many of you watching this are doing it on a phone? And have either come to me because you follow me? I know I don't have many, so it won't be that many of you either yet. Or if it's come up on your FYP, or you've just been doom scrolling and happened to have come across my thing because you're looking for something to do with the protests in Bournemouth or whatever. You've come to me. I'm pretty confident, you know, that I could tell you the black was white through this screen into your immediate vicinity, wherever you are. And if, as sadly many people are becoming, susceptible to what they're told on social media, you will believe that black is white. Not everybody will, of course, but it only takes one. Because if one person believes it and then says it to somebody else who then comes and looks at it, one, it builds up my hit rate, which is great for the algorithm. Thank you very much. But it gets my message out that black is white to more and more people. And it drips and drips and drips. A bit like, I know this probably sounds racist to say it, but it was always called Chinese water torture when I was at school. Because the Chinese army were famous for it. You know, drip, drip, drip. If you drip enough, not only do you drip into somebody's brain the information and it sticks there, but you can wear away any sense of defenses they've got. And this happens because, my friends, as much as we have grown and advanced as technologically more superior than we've ever been, academically more knowledgeable than we have ever been, things have to be sacrificed for that. And the biggest thing we've sacrificed in the invention of social media, the development of interweb and global communication, is critical reasoning and critical thinking. Before these machines came along, we had to rely on this. And books, and the radiogram, and television. But mostly books and this. And if somebody told you 30, 40 years ago that black was white, there was much less chance of you saying, oh, he said it, it must be true, than today, when sadly so many people, because I've said it through the medium of social media, because I've said it on here, it must be true. So more people would believe it today than would have believed it back then, when we use critical thinking and reasoning in our decision making. And I'll give you a very pertinent and much more recent example of what I mean by people not using reasoning or critical reasoning and lateral thinking and sensible thought processes to come to a mature and definitive answer to a question that's bugging them. A few weeks ago yesterday, some wonderful people up in Southport put on a school holiday club with dance sessions to Taylor Swift music for local kids. And lots of local kids went along to it because kids love to dance, love to express themselves. And some of their parents went with them, some of their siblings went with them. They had a great, great time until this young Welshman burst in. And murdered 3 little girls and seriously injured a number of other children and the adults there who were there to protect them and to care for them. After a hunt, he was caught, and he will go to trial, and he will be convicted if the law works, and there will be legal justice for the families of those girls that were lost. But sadly, those girls were not going to come back. And that is something we have to, as a society, ensure never happens again. But also, we have to ensure that what has happened as a result of it never happens again. Excuse me 1 minute. Sorry, I had to have some morphine when I got back because I was stood up for 4 hours and it just hit me all of a sudden. Anyway, what happened immediately after that event when it hit the news? All of a sudden, people started saying it was this person who had done it, that he was a boat person, a migrant, immigrant, that he was a legal immigrant, his parents were illegal immigrants, that he'd come from Rwanda, that he'd come from Afghanistan, that he was a member of Al-Qaeda and his father had previously been a Taliban commander. All these things were coming out, but the one that stuck was that he was the result of illegal immigration. And it was a failure of our immigration system that cost these girls their lives, and therefore it was the Keir Starmer's fault, even though he wasn't in power when this individual was supposed to have arrived in the UK. And a name was put out, and as we all know very quickly, that name was false. Photograph appeared of the person. It wasn't the person who did it. It was a photograph of this other person who'd been misquoted and misnamed. Look what happened. And then when they did finally arrest the right guy, the riots continued. The damage that was done to that man was almost as bad as the damage that was done to those girls. He was totally innocent. He had done nothing wrong. But because somebody with some misinformation decided to put it onto one of these devices, and therefore through one of these devices, through the magic of the little gremlins that live inside our phones and our laptops, everybody got to hear about it, and so everybody decided they were going to have protests, they were going to have riots, they were going to loot shops, nick TVs, they were going to sexually molest and abuse people at demonstrations. They were going to set fire to police cars, and all the things that have happened ever since, including partly the protests that happened today in Bournemouth, have all come not really from that individual from Cardiff, or just outside Cardiff, who is clearly incredibly mentally ill. Not that that's an excuse. But he's a British subject, born and bred. Not because he did it. It's because somebody put on Tinterweb, on social media, that it was about immigration. So people who've already got a gripe over the migrant boat situation, people who want to stir up disharmony and disunity amongst British people, latched onto that absolutely righteous outpouring of grief and sense of horror by everybody with a brain in the UK and around the world after those beautiful little girls were murdered. Some shadowy figure, some organisation, whoever it is in the background somewhere, way up the food chain, who need us to stay fractious, who need us to stay angry, who need us to stay divided and disunified. so that they can keep a hold of power. Well, I'm not talking about the Labour Party or the Conservative Party or Keir Starmer or Rishi Sunak or a Lettuce or somebody else who might have been Prime Minister. I'm talking about the people behind the people behind the people. They will keep us being disunited because they rejoice in the fact that ever really since the explosion of social media, roughly early to mid 90s, a whole generation and a half of people have stopped using critical reasoning to come to a rational and sensible resolution to their questions. And until we start thinking sensibly and logically, rather than grabbing hold of the latest bit of clickbait that is going to make us follow along with sheep, these riots, these protests, and sadly, these murders and these mass killings and all the other things are going to continue to happen. So let's start thinking again. It's good for your mental health as well to use your brain and not just rely on what you see on here. For example, there is a very famous, incredibly, albeit artificially and altered, well-endowed 40-something year old Essex woman, used to be a model, who's now an influencer, who's currently going through 2 bankruptcy hearings, yet is flouting every rule that relates to bankrupts set by the judge, flying off to Turkey to have plastic surgery. Amazingly, she can afford to have that done, yet she can't pay a tax bill. But then appears on social media after she was arrested, having flown back in from Turkey and therefore breaching rules that the judge had set her, begging her followers to send her money because they're in it with me, you're in it with me, you're suffering just as much as I am through this awful court hearing. And I haven't got any money. Please, go down the back of your settees and send me what you've got. How disgraceful. Multi-millionaires asking the people who support her to dig into their own pockets. This is what I mean. No critical reasoning. Common sense says, love, you've got into that situation. You owe that money. You've just been and spent X number of thousands of pounds having your facelift, your 5th or 6th or 50th or 60th, whatever it is. You can afford to do that, but you can't pay your tax bill. You can't afford to feed Harvey. How dare you come to me, a single parent living in a studio, but aspiring to be famous and wanting so much to be loved by somebody, and know that you love me, and you're asking me because you love me so much that I'll give you the money I haven't got for my own food and my own family's needs so that you can go and have another holiday in Turkey. Critical reasoning is stuff you love. The fact that she received well in excess of the cost of her surgery from that one beg for money speaks volumes for critical reasoning being lost. So please, everybody, let's just take a breath when it comes to these protests and riots. Let's stop following a herd mentality. Let's start thinking things through, using reason and sense and normal thought in our decision making. And then perhaps these riots will stop. And perhaps the people in the shadows who rely on us to have those ideas or lack of ideas and just blindly follow whatever they tell us to do, almost lemming-like running towards beaky head, they will lose their power. And then we might start to get our country back. If nothing else, we'll get our dignity back. I'm really feeling a bit weird. I'm sorry. Whether it's the pills or something else, I don't know, but I feel really odd, so I'm going to stop now. I'm rambling even more than I normally do. I hope you've liked this coverage of the protests. If you have, please click the like button. Subscribe if you can. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Most importantly of all, share it with people, please. The more the news gets out, the more I will get followers, and the quicker I'll be able to afford to buy a cup of coffee at Cafe Nero, because I don't have any money. No, I don't do it for the money, but that was an attempt at humour. Please, if you've enjoyed it, like, subscribe and share. Until we see each other again, from a very, very tired little doggy who's fast asleep next to me. Yeah, there he is, that's it. And yours truly, signing off. Ciao, ciao, bambinos. Arrivederci. It looks a little more Duncan. Buenos dias. Have a good one. Wherever you are, be loved, be proud, be you.